She was just full of life. Like, she was fun and funny.
A faded cross bearing the name Lexi is hard to spot along this desolate road near the Katy Freeway. Texas's brutal sunshine leaves a small memorial to Alexis Sharkey, feeling almost forgotten.
What are you doing, Lex?
The 26-year-old Instagram sensation went missing the Friday after Thanksgiving 2020. In interviews with me, her family pleaded for answers. Her body found less than 24 hours after her disappearance.
It's living your worst nightmare ever, truly. Each morning, my husband and I wake up and say, I just hoped it was a nightmare. I hoped it wasn't real.
She was found naked. I mean, there was foul play in discovering everything. It's just, I don't know what happened.
A dump truck driver spotted feet sticking up from the brush the day after Alexis's friends last saw her post on her Instagram story.
We just stunned and I'm looking, but it wasn't no visible wounds. It was like she just got out the tub. Her body was clean. It wasn't, nothing on her body. Her body was clean.
The fact that it's naked, does that say anything?
Yeah, somebody wanted to get rid of the evidence. Because what they're going to look for is DNA.
Mark Stevens spent almost 30 years in law enforcement. He's now a private investigator, not connected to Alexis's case.
There's a stark difference between social justice and criminal justice.
Stevens says building a criminal case against a suspect can take time, sometimes years.
You get one shot. And if you don't get it right, the guy walks, and there's double jeopardy, so he can never be charged again. It's one shot.
Stevens explains social media pressure doesn't always help.
If there's new tips and new evidence coming in, that's a help. If it's just to voice frustration because it's not done yet, that's a hindrance. Nobody goes to homicide. Nobody goes into that just for the glory. I mean, you go into that because you want to find justice for these victims. You're the voice for the dead. You're the voice for the victim.
An autopsy revealed someone strangled Alexis Sharkey to death before placing her naked body here along Red Hoss Street in West Houston. Almost 6 months later, no arrests, no real update from investigators.
Simply closing the case quickly is not necessarily justice. You might have the right person, but you might not.
Tom Berg is a former prosecutor with the Harris County District Attorney's Office.
With murder, for example, there is no statute of limitations. There can be a lot of pressure to resolve a case quickly, and people in our society want quick resolutions because in television you can solve these cases in an hour or less, even with commercial breaks.
He says the DA will routinely work with homicide detectives on building a case they can win in court before charging a suspect. They're always keenly aware of double jeopardy.
So you do have that one shot, because if you try your case and the jury finds the individual not guilty, that's it forever. You cannot bring that same case against that same person again.
The DA's office and the Houston Police Department declined our invitation to speak with us on camera about Alexis Sharkey's murder. The DA says they don't comment on active investigations. Police say homicide detectives continue their work to find Alexis's killer. HPD says a case only becomes cold 3 years after they've exhausted all leads and all investigative tools.
What'd you get, Lex?
Alexis's husband, Tom Sharkey, seen here in social media posts, told me last year she wasn't always the happy person seen online. She was stressed. He described their marriage as solid, despite close friends saying it was on the rocks. In fact, Tom Sharkey said he found Alexis in a brief phone conversation with me. Quote, everybody was still looking for her, and I located her Sunday morning in the coroner's office. They couldn't ID my wife. They didn't know who she was. She was just there. End quote. Efforts to reach Tom Sharkey for this report proved unsuccessful. His phone number no longer works. Text messages sent over the previous months remain unanswered. Alexis's mother, Stacy Robinall, told me her family never stops thinking of Alexis. She didn't want to talk about the case due to HPD's ongoing investigation. She did say, quote, we're encouraged by everything the police are doing on behalf of getting justice for Alexis, end quote. In Houston, Steve Campion, 13, Eyewitness News.